Hi, in this module of improving user experience, we're going to deal with page load times. It's a well-known fact that people on the internet have a short attention span. Or do they? It could be that you have a short interesting span. What I mean by that is, not only does your page need to load quickly, it also needs to engage your user page to page. So what matters most to a good webmaster? It's two things really. It's your core page load times and ensuring that your entire site's load times are consistent. There's a thing called the 3-second rule. It used to be 7 seconds, it used to be 10 seconds, but it really has come down to almost an instant space of time. The real point is, if the person doesn't see something loading within 3 seconds, no matter what you've designed or how pretty it is or how engaging the content is, it just won't matter. Right, I've mentioned core page load times. I'll explain why they're important. You have things like your home page, which is often your most exited page. And if people come through your site from Google and they land on a particular product page, it's quite often that they'll leave via your home page. And if that page takes long to load, it's the last page they're going to see, which means they're not going to have a good exit experience, which doesn't give them a reason to come back. Another important page is your contact page. If somebody wants to reach out and make contact, making it difficult for them is a sure way of making sure they won't bother. And certainly trying to avoid annoying features like capture forms with overly complicated ways of verifying that they're a human being, because they're very likely to drop off at that point too. Think about your specials pages or your promotion pages, and think about the fact that those pages are often the ones that are marketed, and people are likely to hit those pages via mobile phones, tablets, and you certainly want those pages to work as well as possible on those platforms, because those are the pages that will drive your business. Other core pages that certainly need to load quickly and load well are gallery pages or portfolio pages. You can imagine if you're a photographer and have a website and your portfolio is online, you'd want anybody to be able to see your pictures and not make it difficult for them to do that on a phone or a tablet. So fancy light boxes and fancy scripts that animate might not work as well as possible there, and I would then advise against that. Okay, let's talk about overall page load management, which is making sure that all your pages on your site load consistently. You don't want to have tiny pages that load very quickly and then huge pages that take forever to load. It gives an inconsistent user experience, and most certainly once they hit too many heavy pages, they're going to leave the site as well. If you find you have an image-rich page, certainly ensure that you've optimized your pictures as much as possible. There's a number of plugins that WordPress provides for doing that, but you can also in Photoshop optimize pictures so that they load as fast as possible. An additional optimization of page load is to use a content delivery network or CDN. You have free options and you have commercial options. WordPress provides the free option through their plugin called Jetpack, and there's an option called Photon, which you can use to load your pictures from their servers for free. And you can look at something like Max CDN or Afri CDN, where you pay a couple of dollars a month and do the same thing, but get commercial grade media serving, which also will ensure that your pages load rather quickly. A final point on optimizing pages for consistent loading is ensure that the code is bug-free. When a browser has to try and work out what your code is meant to be rendering, it goes into what's called quirks mode. And that typically makes the browser work harder and therefore your page load longer. So clean code or optimized code certainly will load faster as well. Okay, so we've talked about optimizing page load time consistently, but how do we go about doing that? Well, you've got hosting, you've got caching, and you've got load balancing, and we're going to get into that next. Hosting. First of all, I would suggest hosting your website with a reputable ISP. You want your site to load quickly, you want to know that your ISP is going to be able to provide that to you. You're going to want to host locally because Google does take cognizance of where you host your site and serves local content to local markets as a priority. You would also want to host in the time zone that your clients use your site, so that for support reasons, if you need to fix something, you've got support at the time that your clients are using your site. Caching. So many file types have redundant space inside them, and as a result, the files are bigger than they need to be. gzip is a way of reducing white space in an HTML file. You have minification or minify, which is the way you would do the same thing with a JavaScript file or a CSS file. And you have Smashit, which is an online service for doing the same thing with pictures if you don't have access to a software like Photoshop. And then you also want to look at third-party ways of serving rich media. So you've all seen YouTube, you've all figured out that you can embed a YouTube video. It's another way of ensuring that your page loads as fast as possible without having lots to load itself, because it's pulling information from a third party. And then we have load balancing. Ideally, the more servers you can have doing the work of one, the better. You can imagine 3 servers doing the work of one will do it in a third of the time. And your page load will be a third of what it normally would be if you're only running off one server. An example of this is, imagine you have a page, your contact page, for example, where you have a form which is on your site, but you have a map which is coming from Google Maps. That being served from a different server ensures that now you have two servers doing the work of one, and your page will typically load in half the time compared to if you had mapped the information yourself and served it as a picture. So as a last note, I would suggest that before you start doing any optimization to your website, benchmark, and then benchmark on at least 3 different platforms. Google PageSpeed, tools.pingdom.com, WooRank, or Firebug will all give you out of 100 scores for your page load times, and all will suggest to you how to make improvements. And as I referred to earlier, these are the tricks. This is the list of all the tricks that you can apply. And you'll find that as you go along, it's this final optimization, the last 5%, the last 2%, and trying to get to 100% that makes you a great web developer and really will put you on the leading edge of what you're doing. And as I like to think of it, it's about Kaizen, which is a Japanese word that refers to continual gradual improvement. So I look forward to talking to you about this whole concept of optimization in the forums, and we'll see you soon.